Good morning, Dory here from the Delightful Cottage, and today we are going to be putting bias tape on the edge of this apron. This is a single layer fabric. It has been finished. The edge has been zigzagged or serged so that it's easy to work with, and you also want your machine to be threaded top and bottom with a coordinating or matching color to the bias tape you're planning to use. This helps hide the seam that you're putting on. That way, if it's not perfectly straight, it's not as noticeable. Alright, so let's get set to do this today. Okay, for this part, bias tape has a slightly longer side. That is the side that I like to use on the bottom, or the back side. This is the back side of the fabric. You want the longer edge of the bias tape on the back side. Now, you don't have to worry about folding this edge because when we come all the way around, we're going to cover that raw edge back up. So no worries there. Just start on a nice straight section and put the edge of your fabric into the fold of the bias tape. Now, I have my machine set. This bias tape is just slightly, not quite as wide as my presser foot. So I'm going to keep the edge of the bias tape to this edge of the presser foot, and I have my needle also set to that edge as well. Alright, so you keep your needle and the edge of your presser foot over here. That way you've got the most amount of fabric inside the bias tape. Now, I do not pin it ahead of myself. I just work in small sections, put the edge to the middle of the bias tape, fold it over, and I hold about 3 or 4 inches of it. Now, you start, then I usually do a backup stitch of 2 or 3 stitches, and then continue. Now, you can feel as you're sewing that that edge of the fabric is all the way over here. So I'll sew about there a little bit. Then I'll set up the next couple inches of the bias tape. And continue this way, all the way down and around. Alright, I'm to the end of this strip of bias tape, and I want to start with another strip, so I'm going to show you how I do that here in the middle of a project. Go ahead and sew right off the end of the piece you're working on, and pick up your presser foot, pull that out, trim your threads off that one, and then take this one, remember, larger side underneath, so fold back a little bit of it like that. Now, see? Then I just put this right over the end I just stopped on. And sometimes I'll actually slightly fold it a little bit crooked so that this raw edge is definitely hidden on the front side. Then what you can do is just go set that under your presser foot, get yourself set again with the fabric going to the center fold of your bias tape. Hold that down, and then remember to back stitch right here. And you've successfully added your next section of bias tape to continue your project. Now, I'm coming into a armhole here, so I have a bit of a curve, you can see. So you just want to work in smaller sections, straighten the curve, put the bias tape on it, and then again do that same thing, just tuck it and work in small sections as you continue around the curve of the sleeve. Now, it's a little bit different when we work in a curve in reverse to this, but I'll show you how we do that. Okay, well, now we're to a curve that goes the other way, and it's a simple, very simple, similar process you just go in much smaller increments. Get your edge of your fabric in there, hold it, and you want to put just a tiny bit of tension on just the bias tape. And go a little ways. Now check it again. And just keep working that curve into the bias tape. A little bit of pressure on the bias tape. Not much, or it'll wrinkle. Basically all you're doing is just snugging it out against your presser foot slightly. So again, that. Remember, you can feel the seam inside the bias tape. Let that curve work around under the presser foot as you're going. You don't want it to bunch. That's basically all the pressure you're putting on it, is to keep the fabric and the bias tape from bunching up as you're working. So now we're coming up on where they meet. Now I know that I want enough of this bias to fold over to hide my raw edge. So I'm going to cut it off about right there. Get this out of my way. And I'm going to go ahead and fold it. Now remember what I showed you when we joined the two pieces. I fold it slightly crooked so that when I fold it over, this edge is not showing. Now if that bugs you on the back side, then just kind of fold it, double it, crinkle it in there, however it works for you. So now I've laid the back side. I've got the fabric into the center of the bias tape. And I'm holding them together right here. And I go ahead and sew up over. And I back stitch. Then I also am going to go over to this outer edge and then back stitch. And that is it. That's how you finish off the edge of something with bias tape. As you can see, you've got a nice, the seam of the material is way in here, so you've got a nice bite on the edge for washing and for wear. And it's ready to use. You've officially finished it with bias tape.